We now know, okay, we now know they're tearing the entire East Wing's being demolished this weekend. Just let that sink in. Donald Trump has decided to demolish the entire East Wing this weekend in order to build his ballroom. He is putting a change to the White House that hasn't been made since it was burned down, arguably, when the British were trying to get rid of it. But this, again, this person wrote me before we knew the full extent of this demolition project by foreman Donald Trump. And he writes this: I think DJT is making a miscalculation with the White House East Wing demolition. Americans love the White House. I think it's the building we revere the most. You can just think of the historic presidents walking those halls, one after another, no matter what party. The optics being circulated right now of the expansive demolition are quite jarring. Maybe his base won't care, but there might be a whole bunch of people in the middle who aren't crazy about him unilaterally tearing down a national treasure. And, I sort of touched on it the other day, and I do think that Donald Trump right now is sort of playing with matches in front of a gas tank. He's more focused literally on everything other than what he campaigned on, right? He is not focused on lowering costs. He is not focused on the issue that got him elected, lowering costs and improving people's lifestyles and giving them more opportunity. Perhaps you can make an argument that he is attempting to fulfill his promise on law and order with immigration and what he's trying to do in the cities, though how he's doing it is actually harming the economy and raising the cost of everyday things. I mean, if you want to know why chicken and beef are so expensive, just ask ICE, okay, on that front. And the point I was making the other day on this is I think times 1,000 when it comes to sort of the symbolism that he seems to be more consumed with enhancing himself, self-dealing, enriching himself and his family, becoming an actual billionaire, trying to get his, name in the history books, campaigning for an accolade. It's just so weird. Most of us were not raised to campaign for accolades. And yet he campaigns for the Nobel Peace Prize, and you have U.S. senators desperate for his endorsement, introducing resolutions in the United States Senate, including one person who thought he committed crimes so great against the Constitution that he should never be allowed to hold office again. But that was 2021. That was way back when. Now, of course, re-election is paramount. Whatever it takes to get DJT to endorse you. And there's a point here, right, with Trump, and I think it happened in the first term. A lot of Trump's opponents are always they're always thinking this is going to sink him. Aha, right? I go back to the comments about John McCain when he said John McCain was no war hero. And so many of us, myself included, thought, well, there's no way he can survive in the Republican Party. My goodness, the chairman of the Republican Party, when Donald Trump did that, eviscerated Donald Trump. Well, that chairman would eventually become his first chief of staff in Reince Priebus, right? So trying to predict the downfall of Donald Trump is something that you will lose. You could lose a lot of credibility trying to do. But over time, Trump wears out his welcome, right? The Apprentice was a success until it wasn't. And then he was desperate for attention. And, we got the Gary Busey years, right? And, just when it literally was about to get canceled and he knew it was going to get canceled, he didn't want to go out a failure. So he looked like he just was going through the motions on running for president almost as an exit strategy, because he knew the end was near for a show that people were just sort of tired of. It was the same plot over and over, but how crazier and crazier, how much Dennis Rodman do you need on your TV screen? How much Gary Busey do you need on your TV screen? And so now we're in the political world. And I do think that, there are times when I think it is a fair critique that Democrats get so focused on some things that they take their eye off the main ball, which is, what do voters care about? Well, this is a case where I think Donald Trump is so focused on what he wants to do with himself and his own ego that he's taken, he's no longer Mr. America First. He is not putting America first, really under any circumstance, right? He's so enamored with his legacy building, he has suddenly become Mr. Foreign Policy President. Not the first president to do that, but I don't want to get bogged down on that. But it's this self-dealing over time, right? And you start to accumulate things. There was the meme coin. You're like, what is he doing? You're part of the crypto scam. Okay. And he did this. Then there was the plane, and you're like, really? Ugh, oh, that's gross. And then it sort of came and went. By the way, the plane's been, boy, I mean, if you ask Cutter, the plane is valued at somewhere around $500 million, a little less than $500 million. And they've now gotten NATO-like security guarantees from the United States within 5 months of giving that plane to him. That's a pretty good return on investment on that one. Then we've had the shakedowns of corporations. Then, of course, earlier this week, we found he wants to shake down the government. He so is trying to rewrite history about the various ways that he fought the law. And he wants to get financially compensated for the fact that essentially his political ambition got most of these cases either dismissed or turned away because he got elected to office again, right? He didn't get off. He's not innocent of stealing classified information. He's not innocent of what he did on January 6th. He's not innocent on what he did after the 2020 election. They just couldn't follow through with the prosecutions because of a Supreme Court ruling about the president and what kind of legal issues could he be tried for, and what kind of immunities did he have. But the point is, he's not gotten off on any of these things, but now he wants to be reimbursed to the tune of some $200+ million. And guess who would sign off on that settlement? His former personal attorney, who's now a deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche. So you put all these together. So he's demolishing, he paved over the Rose Garden. He demolished the East Wing to build sort of Mar-a-Lago, Washington, for a ballroom. And by the way, you can make this is one of those cases where if he went about this through the proper channels of the White House Historical Association, following through on sort of how you do these things, I actually think there would be bipartisan support for an expanded ballroom for the White House. Okay, it is ridiculous how often they erect tents. There's a big south lawn. They could do more with it. Maybe they could put it together with the large garage that they have there, where they keep the various vehicles for the presidential limousines and stuff like that, and the presidential SUV. I actually think you could get some sort of, but of course, Trump has two issues with that. He doesn't like asking anybody else's permission for anything, right? He just doesn't like to abide by those things. And the second thing is it would probably take longer. And he clearly wants some of this. He wants to experience these things himself. There's a reason results matter more than promises. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan has become America's largest injury law firm. For the last 35 years, they've recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. It includes cases where insurance companies offered next to nothing, short of shortchanging, seeing if they could get away with it. And Morgan & Morgan fought back, and they won millions. In Pennsylvania, one client was awarded $26 million. It was a staggering 40 times the amount that the insurance company originally offered. That offer, $650,000, whatever it took to sort of get away without paying. So with more than 1,000 lawyers across the country, Morgan & Morgan knows how to deliver for everyday people. So if you're injured, you're looking for a lawyer, check out forthepeople.com/ToddCast or dial #law, #529 on your cell phone. And remember, all law firms are not the same. So give Morgan & Morgan a look. Their fee is free unless they win. But if the everyday life of middle class and working class Americans not only don't improve in 2025 and 2026, but actually take a step back, He is starting to venture in on what I believe is let them eat cake territory. And you can start to put together the accumulation of this. And this is why I think, while no one of these, we know this, he gets away with any one of these things because in some ways people focus too much on one thing and not enough on the big picture. But let's take a look, if you will, at the big picture when it comes to putting all this together. So since he's come into office, all right, I want to put together, I want you to understand, since he's come into office, there's been no, if you want it, if you're looking for the fastest growing family business in America right now, you don't go to Silicon Valley or Wall Street. You go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Because since Donald Trump has returned to the White House, the Trump family has taken this public power and turned it into private profit at a pace that surpasses anything we saw during Teapot Dome, right? That's one of the reasons I did the ToddCast Time Machine the other day on Teapot Dome. So if you look at the headline number, and various independent media outlets have done, Forbes, Fortune, the New Yorker, all have done various estimates on this. And the Trump family's collective wealth in less than a year has grown by somewhere between $3 and $5 billion. So roughly doubling the family's net worth in less than a year. And the biggest driver is not real estate. He used to be real. It is crypto. Let me get into the details here. It all began with the family's flagship token, this Trump meme coin, which is totally worthless, right? That exploded into a multi-billion-dollar market because his supporters, for one reason or the other, buy into this. They're willing to buy this Trump meme coin, which is nothing more than a Franklin mint tchotchke, if you want to. But it had a market value at one point of up to 27 billion. The Trump family controls 20 of that 27 billion. 80% of all the meme coins are in their control. Now, look, this could end up being worthless, right? Once they're out of office, people may sell their coins, and whatever coins, they'll be worth what they actually should be worth, which is zero. But, I think this is something Trump has always believed his name should be valued at a higher number, that his brand is so great. It used to be the argument he used to make with the Forbes folks when they would do their billionaire list. Trump was always upset that he was not higher on the list, and he'd claim extra net worth just based on his name. In some ways, this meme coin, put a figure on it, and becoming president, he got some $20 billion in equity value. Now, of course, this could easily be bribery money. Right? It's other countries, other sovereign wealth funds buying this, it's a way to bribe Trump without actually having to hand him a check, because if you're buying his meme coin, you've raised the value of the meme coin. So there's that. In actual income, now the Trump family also makes money on every transaction of the said meme coin. So they've actually made real dollars here outside of crypto money. According to CNBC and CoinDesk, he's raked in just this year $324 million in trading fees for Trump connected wallets. Okay. Then there's the second crypto project that the Trump family has done, the World Liberty Financial, which is also part of Steve Witkoff's son, is a part of this as well. So the chief negotiator with all these foreign countries is also financially benefiting in partnership with the Trump family. That venture has raised more than $550 million in tokens, and that's earned Trump about $57 million personally in just 1 year. And guess who are some of the investors? State-owned Gulf investors, including a $2 billion deal with an Emirati firm, MGX and Binance. So no more real estate. He's making more money in crypto than anything else. This is something that Trump still knows nothing about, and basically most Americans don't. It feels like some sort of invented wealth, if you will. But wait, there's more. According to Fortune and Axios, there's been $80 million that's been given to the family through Trump's presidential library. And that's been a mix of legal settlements and corporate deals. You've got the $40 million Amazon documentary deal about Melania Trump, a $10 million payout from X, formerly as Twitter, to settle Trump's lawsuit for being deplatformed. $15 million donation to settle a suit with Disney. We know that Paramount gave him another 15 or 16 million. You've got Meta has also gave him a bunch of money. And then there's the merchandising, right? The guy merchandises everything. 3 million from coffee table books, nearly 3 million for Trump watches, 2.5 million from sneakers and fragrances. And they also have their own their own mobile phone line, $499 a handset. All right. Then you have more ways that the Trump family has sold their name in the last year. There's Trump Tower Jeddah, announced in Saudi Arabia, the luxury golf resort in Qatar, backed by the country's sovereign wealth fund. So they already gave him a plane. Now they're giving him a golf resort as well. There's Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, and another hotel is under construction in Oman. And then there's a $1.5 billion real estate partnership in Vietnam that promises golf courses and resorts across the country. That's just crypto in that. Now let me throw in what Jared Kushner's been up to, the son-in-law. He's got a private equity firm, Infinity Partners, that manages billions in Gulf state capital, while he's also negotiating the Israeli-Gaza peace deal. He had a $2 billion investment from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. Some of this, we believe, some of these negotiations on this fund that he runs happened while he was still on a presidential payroll in 2020 and 2021 before Trump left for his first term. There's $100 million a year in management fees just for managing money from Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump Jr. co-founded an exclusive executive branch club in Washington, and he's charging $500,000 a membership. Basically, hey, do you want to be associated with the Trump name in D.C.? It costs you $500,000. So that's why his personal fortune now is somewhere, according to Forbes, around $5 to $6 billion. And maybe about 40% of it is in crypto, which is much more volatile. We know this. But he's literally was barely a billionaire when he entered office a second time. And now he's done this.